Hi, folks. Welcome to Thursday's edition of the I Write Radio podcast, stroke videocast. We'll go with Nicola Sturgeon's press conference. I think there's a few things we want to bring in. They're not sort of momentous, but we'll slip them in as and when the House of Lords gets a mention. I think 2 or 3 times today. So the press conference, Jimmy, what stood out for you?
But maybe I thought it was a bit mundane today.
It was
Obviously,
quick.
it was quick, mate. And obviously the mainstream hyenas are definitely all on holiday now, along with Westminster, because we had an awful lot of strange faces asking questions today. Even wee Susan Ripple got into STV. She's about 4th division. She's nowhere near the Premier League, but there we go. I think the big thing, mate, was the announcement of another PPE contract for NHS Scotland going to a Scottish company down in Dumfries and Galloway somewhere. But apparently, for millions of pieces of equipment, and it's going to secure a couple of hundred jobs and be cheaper than what they were paying on the international market. So it kind of looks as if Scotland's going to be very close to being self-sufficient for PPE.
Good stuff. I would imagine, I was thinking about this that when Ivan McKee made his announcement about the contracts earlier during the pandemic, the Scottish-based contracts, if you can get the contract, you know what money you're getting, you'll be able to put in the latest infrastructure into the factory.
Mm.
And I would imagine, looking at these things I've seen from China and Korea, manufacturing of gloves and stuff, it all looks almost totally what do you call it, automated.
Yeah.
Apart from stuffing them in a box. And I would imagine there's even a way to automate that. So I have to say I was a bit surprised to hear there was 200 jobs.
Me too, aye. I wondered if that was delivery jobs, if I'm honest. But because a lot of this stuff, you're right, it's going to be automated. They're going to want a factory that's almost hermetically sealed so that there's no chance of any infection getting in. But fair play. As I say, it's just good that the contract's gone to a Scottish firm. I've seen a few anecdotal things online where folk have been talking about the hand sanitizer smelling of whiskey. You know, a couple of the distilleries switched to providing hand sanitizer to the NHS as well. So,
is that meant to be a bad thing or a good thing, do you think?
I think it's probably a bad thing, mate, because I don't feel like the Scots that would be licking their hands and try to drink the hand sanitizer if it did taste it as well.
Aye, true. There wasn't really anything. The Orkney outbreak.
Yeah, that's a strange one. The press were desperate to link it to make it bigger than it was, and she was basically just giving people a heads up, saying that the incident management team will meet in Orkney because there's been a few cases there that might become or might form a cluster, and there's the possibility that it's linked to somebody that's travelled from Aberdeen. Just given that if you fly to Orkney, I don't think you can fly to Orkney, can you? You have to get the boat from Aberdeen. I'm not sure there is an airport in Orkney. I might be wrong.
Well, I'd be surprised if there wasn't.
But anyway, there's a possible linkage, so there'll be some more information coming out about that this afternoon once the IMT have met. And of course, the press were desperate to get some kind of linkage. The only other thing I'd point out is she slightly chided the BBC. Ada went far further than slightly chiding them, because they did put out headlines yesterday effectively saying there was an outbreak in a school in Glasgow. And there's not. There are 8 pupils who go to that school who haven't gone back to school because that school went back yesterday, and they're self-isolating because they are positive. So the headline read, absolutely clearly read, that there was an outbreak in a school, and BBC Scotland should be ashamed of themselves for putting that out, that headline, and putting it out on the internet.
I did see it reported, and it was reported accurately, I have to say. I noticed as well that there's, on Twitter anyway, apparently there's been a teacher tested positive at a school in Peterhead.
Aye, so they just shut the school.
Yeah, but it turns out the school wasn't open due to the weather. So it's affecting the staff, not the pupils, which was a kind of a let off
It
in a
is,
way,
aye.
you know.
I think, given how large the outbreak in Aberdeen is now, and we've got more numbers a day, there was more cases, up to 192, 900 and odd contacts now. Test and Protect seems to be working pretty well in Aberdeen. It's just the fact that where how people were socialising, not just in bars but at house parties, as she was at pains to point out today, it's still spreading. Test and Protect can help us attempt to stop it spreading, but you
I
know,
think I think it's one of the good side effects of her daily presser that she can get up there and honestly say what's happening as a kind of warning, as a flag up of, guys, this hasn't gone away, which the British government, they've let that opportunity slide by stopping their daily briefings.
yeah, they also don't have access to as accurate information. The Circle contract, I believe Circle are now letting staff go
Aye,
because
aye.
quietly, under the radar, England is now taking a far more public health approach, similar to the approach that's been taken in Scotland, which they were encouraged to do months ago, but chose that handing out massive contracts to multinational companies was the way to go. And it certainly hasn't been the way to go because they just don't have that accurate and the ability to drill down into information as tightly as we can.
Anything else come out of the presser for you?
Not really, mate. No, I thought it was, like I say, it was quick, it was painless, and I think the press are all now off to start writing their stories about John Swinney in Parliament this afternoon not losing a vote of no confidence, and then they'll be sitting like us watching Scottish Parliament TV at 3:20.
And I notice neither Ruth nor Douglas Ross have been making any noise today on the BBC or ITV.
No, it's strange, isn't it? The English exam results have come out this morning, and there's all kinds of stooshy going on, and they've got to be seen. It's weird how a Scottish education minister has to resign, but an English education minister gets to parade his idiocy all across TV all morning with nary a comment from Tories up here.
Very strange. What was he? Oh yeah, what did I notice yesterday? That Grant Shapps, who's supposed to be self-isolating after his holiday to Spain,
Mm-hmm.
and Boris Johnson are interviewed on national BBC and Scottish BBC about the train crash.
Yeah, I have an issue with that. And one, Grant Shapps' self-isolation shouldn't have ended till today. So I hope they took some considerable pains to interview him on the end of a long pole. But two, why on earth is the UK Transport Secretary or Transport Minister, whatever he is, coming up to Scotland when transport's a devolved issue? ScotRail's devolved. He's got no real interest in this other than to appear on TV as the UK government's man in Scotland, or the UK government's man who knows about transport, and he doesn't because he's thick as mince.
Well, I think I
In
know
Scotland,
why.
talk down to us.
Network Rail is not devolved.
Mm.
Network Rail is Westminster's baby. So if this is a fault of Network Rail, Grant Shapps is the man that should be holding the baby.
Well, I see. I think it's just an extension of their decision that the UK government has to show its face more in Scotland, because until such time as the investigation decides that Network Rail was the problem, he should have nothing to do with it. As far as I'm
Well,
concerned, it's a devolved issue. Let British Transport Police up here investigate it, and let the Rail Accident Investigation Branch, or whatever they're called,
well, there's
investigate.
another one. Is that Stushy over and done with? British Rail Police
I
not
don't think
becoming
it is.
part of
No,
Police Scotland?
no, I think
Is
it's
that
still an issue.
still ongoing? I haven't
Aye,
heard
I mean,
about it for a long time.
I have no idea why he's got to show his face here. I don't, and I don't know. Is it Grant Shapps that's coming, or is it his alter ego Michael Green? Who knows?
No idea. Still on about the Tories. Yesterday's First Minister's Questions was Ruth Davidson's first opportunity to go head to head with her for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And Quentin Letts in the Times, who seems to think the exams up here are A-levels like they are in England, having his full and complete grasp of Scottish politics, describes that head-to-head as a draw.
Aye, that's the worst draw I've ever seen, mate. If it was a boxing match, I'd have got stopped after question 2.
Aye.
Never seen a draw that one-sided in my puff.
Do we think that our listeners and viewers deserve to see it? Do we?
I think they ought to, yeah.
Right, here we go. Oh. Be a sec, folks. Boom, 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 boom.
Nice soundtrack.
Yeah. Here's Ruth Davidson.
Now, the First Minister's loyalty to a colleague may be commendable, but her real loyalty should be to the parents and the pupils of Scotland. They deserve new leadership in education, and John Swinney cannot deliver it. Why won't the First Minister see that?
First Minister.
I'm not sure loyalty to colleagues is a strong suit for Ruth Davidson. Ruth Davidson says, I won't write to universities. The reason for that is because John Swinney has already spoken to the universities. She says we won't publish how the SQA is working. The reason I won't instruct them to do that today is because they did it last week. And of course, in terms of teachers in our schools, there are more teachers in our schools today than there was when I became First Minister, and we've just funded local authorities to employ more teachers in our schools. But you know, let's come to, and forgive me, Presiding Officer, you know, my mind is not particularly on political matters this morning, but Ruth Davidson wants to have this kind of exchange. She really should think about the position from which she seeks to do it. Because just in a few months, I will submit myself and my government to the verdict of the Scottish people in an election. That is the ultimate accountability for our record and our leadership. And as we do that, Ruth Davidson will be pulling on her ermine and going to the unelected House of Lords. So can I gently suggest to Ruth Davidson that when it comes to holding to account and scrutinising politicians, she's really not coming at this from a position of strength, because it is not me who is running away from democratic accountability.
Beautiful. I noticed that the London Economic, which is clearly not a paper or a magazine that you would describe as being in any way nationalist, they put together a nice wee piece on it and effectively used Janie Godley's phraseology when they said that yesterday we physically got to see the act of somebody having their own arse handed to them upon a plate.
Nice one.
And I'll tell you what, fair play to the First Minister, because she must have had to have 2 hands on that plate.
Well, at least 2 hands. I'm surprised she managed it herself.
Aye.
The kind of point about Quentin Letts is Quentin Letts comes across, when you see him on the telly and that, as this nice, affable, home counties, jolly chappy. Mm-hmm. But when you read what he writes, there is no doubt where his loyalties lie, and they're slightly right of Genghis Khan.
Aye, exactly. If General Franco was still alive, he'd be in the Quentin Letts fan club.
True. The other thing I noticed, talking about Ruth Davidson in the House of Lords, the House of Lords went into lockdown because of the age of most of the residents. And they got their daily allowance cut to £162, I think it was. And lo and behold, the record of attendance soared.
Aye.
Soared.
absolutely went through the roof because they needed to pick up that £162
Well,
daily.
they didn't even have to get a taxi from wherever they are to the House of Lords. They just switched on their computer and voted virtually, and still got their 162 quid. Not bad work if you can get it, guys. Not bad work at all.
Aye, all right for some, eh?
Aye.
I don't know, mate. Like the kind of money that gets wasted on the House of Lords, there's got to be better places to spend that, eh?
What else came up for you today?
Well, strangely, the Stephen Daisley piece that we spoke about, I think a week and a half ago, where he was basically encouraging Westminster to write a new Act of Union and impose it upon Scotland. It seems to have got some traction yesterday. There's a lot of people talking about it. I don't know if it went online last week and it actually hit the magazine racks this week or whatever, but it's a farcical piece. It's worth people having a look just to see how the extreme right actually thinks.
This is Daisley basically asking for Westminster to prove beyond any doubt that it dictates to Scotland.
Aye, that we are a possession of England and should be treated accordingly.
As did the Scottish Fabian piece.
Aye, I mean, the boy's a clown. It's interesting how the left and the right seem to have come to the same, well, the left and right of unionism seem to have come to the same conclusion, possibly because they've accepted fully that they will never again win an election in Scotland.
Well, neither one of them has mentioned the idea, and I can understand why, of a devolved English Parliament. Because the minute you get a devolved English Parliament, what is grievance to Westminster will cease to be grievance, because it'll be about what the English want, whereas Westminster is about what the English want now.
I don't know, mate. You wonder. I have no idea how some of these folks still get paid to keep writing the same thing. There was one this morning by somebody else that I sent to you, and Alex Massey, a piece by him, and it's basically the same piece that he regurgitates every couple of months. He just sort of updates it with what's been happening. The last couple of paragraphs are what's been happening lately, and I've no idea how they keep paying them. I mean, Daisley I can understand. Daisley doesn't get 30 pieces of silver; he gets 30 pieces of pie because he needs that. But I've no idea how they get away with still writing these pieces and churning them out every couple of months.
I do like Massey. I do like his writing. I always think he's worth a read. Don't agree with him about a lot, but I do like his writing. It's interesting that they're so lacking in confidence about another referendum that all they can talk about now is how to stop another referendum.
Mm-hmm. Aye,
and nobody seems concerned about the lack of democracy in it all.
I'd love a look at their polling. I'd love a look at some of the polling that they've got, because it must be horrendous, mate. If all they, like you say, if all they can talk about now, and I know people say it's just the extreme right, but that's where the ideas come from. The ideas come from the extreme right, and they put them out there, and then certain ideas get adopted.
I don't understand how they would consider it legitimate to create a new Act of Union that had no support from Scotland.
And couldn't possibly be ratified by Scotland.
You know, I mean,
the last Act of Union was ratified by the Scottish Parliament. This one, they would say, would only be ratified by the Parliament of England. Nonsense. You can't impose a treaty or an act. You can't impose a union upon people.
Well, they seem to think you can.
Isn't that exactly what Brussels was supposed to be doing to good old Blighty and that fine Brexit?
That's different. That's different.
Oh,
that's imposing stuff on the English.
Sorry. That's Feather shouting at me. Give a minute.
Cool. Well, folks, I'll just talk to you myself because there's nobody else to talk to. What else has been happening? Well, obviously, we're still getting a lot of headlines about the SNP possibly getting 74 seats out of the new polling from YouGov, which is quite interesting. We don't need the Greens, although the Greens, according to the YouGov poll, will lose 3 seats. They're down to 3 seats, so they're not going to be too happy with the way that's looking at the moment.
Sorry about that, Norrie.
I was just talking to myself, Jimmy, to be honest.
You're all right, mate. You're getting quite good at that, I'm told.
I was talking to the listeners about the 74 seats that the YouGov poll is projected to give the SNP.
Aye. It's a great poll. Fabulous numbers. I don't see how. And I know they're hoping that something will come out of this Salmond investigation or something like that, and the SNP will explode. But right now, a few months out from, well, what are we, August now? So 10 months out, 9 months out for an election. There's no coming back for this as far as I'm concerned. The SNP winning a landslide. The fact that there's a 37-point gap to the Tories. And what we're going to see is, well, we've got a Laurel Hardy type leadership situation for the Tories.
And
somebody who's going to,
and the Labour Party.
Aye, and the Labour Party might, God, they could even change their leader. They're that hacked off. Did you see that internal leaked report that came out about how bad things are for Labour?
But the question, as ever, is who have they got?
I didn't see anything, mate.
Who
I think
have they
Labour
got?
Labour
Ian
would
May.
have. No, Labour would have to go Jackie Baillie. I think she's. It's either her or Anna Sarwar. So they've both tried to be leader before and failed. But they've got, you kind of clique of the Labour Party is, they've kind of got the support tied up behind Leonard. So it would be one of those two.
It's not good for Scottish politics that the opposition is so weak, especially in leadership. You can kind of get away with it having a bunch of huddies behind you, but your figurehead has to be able. I mean, I hate to say it, but it makes Miss Dugdale look good.
It's all over. I mean, even the Liberal Democrats, the only reason Willie Rennie's still leader of Lib Dems after so many unsuccessful elections where he's lost them support is that there's nobody else. The only one they've got is Alex Cole-Hamilton, and he's a horrible wee fella. If they made him party leader, they would go, 1 or 2% support at the next election.
But if you think about the people we're talking about, they have no appeal.
Mm-hmm.
They have no appeal whatsoever. Cole Hamilton, Ruth Davidson, Dougie Ross, Leonard, Bailey, Sarwars.
There's not one of them that if they were SNP members, there's not one of them that would get a front bench job because they're not good enough. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at amateurs. We're looking at absolute amateurs trying to play with the big boys, and none of them are capable.
I've got a bit of respect for Jackie Baillie, I have to say, because she can do that complete nutter and then go in front of the cameras and sound reasonable. You know, she's one of those that she can tweet absolute drivel, but it's presentable in front of camera.
I think she's a freak show, mate. I think she would fall apart under the scrutiny that any party leader has to be under. And when she stood in the past in questions, she's as bad as Richard Leonard in that everything has to be written down beforehand. There's no way she can think upon her feet and actually react to the answer that comes back to her.
Aye. Well, I thought yesterday was interesting with the wee stramash between Ruth and Nicola. Because Nicola obviously thought, right, let's nip this in the bud.
Yeah.
Let's let her know it's not going to be a rollover. I think Ruth went in there thinking Nicola was going to do that no politics during the pandemic. I think she had an open goal.
No, I mean, I think Ruth just believed her own press. I think she forgot just how poorly she actually worked as leader. I mean, I think she believed her own press that she was this wonderful leader that successfully led the Tory parties to she moved them from 22% to 24% in 5-6 years of leadership. That's hardly a wonderful. And she forgets, I think she genuinely forgot just how many times Nicola Sturgeon made an ass of her at the dispatch box every week week upon week upon week. Believed her own press, because the press have told her that she was a wonderful leader and that she, she could have won them. She could have been the next First Minister. She could have been, if she'd actually managed to drag them past 20-odd%.
Well,
And
she could
the
have.
entire SNP cabinet had been wiped out with a meteor strike or something.
Talking about the press, I noticed that the Scottish press have been thrown a lifeline with the very sad 3-death rail crash, but it made sure that the cock-up down in Westminster over the exams could be kept off the front pages.
Yes,
So they must be sighing relief all over the place.
I've been kind of following it a wee bit today, mate, and my God, given what that they'd watched everything that happened up here, they've learnt nothing. The results are a reasonable set of results, exactly the same way that the SQA produced a reasonable set of results. They've not taken into account the pupils though, and I mean, to have Gavin Williamson on breakfast time this morning, I mean, he was on Sky News and couldn't answer any of the questions that they put to him. Then he's on breakfast time talking about they had to give reasonable results because you didn't want people being being promoted beyond their ability. I mean, he said that phrase with an almost straight face, and I'm thinking, hold it, son. There's you, there's Helen Whately, there's Grant Shapps, there's Matt Hancock. How many people in that bloody cabinet have been promoted way beyond their station?
Boris himself.
Aye. But and then to cap it all, mate, we have the Education Secretary who won't be held to account by journalists. He refuses to go on Newsnight. He refuses to go on Channel 4 News. Where did he get grilled today? He got grilled by Eamon and Ruth on This Morning. How did we get to the point that Eamon and Ruth are the grade A political grillers? Absolute farce, man.
It's unbelievable. And of course, we won't hear from Douglas Ross or Ruth Davidson because Douglas Ross he's got a huge city. He's got London to hide in.
It's a resignation issue for John Swinney, and it's nothing to be considered for Gavin Williams.
And that debate, did you say that debate was 3:20?
Aye, 3:20, the motion comes to the floor for
John Swinney.
Swinney. So it'll be an interesting watch. But even today, mate, I was trying to work out exactly how badly a mess the English are going to make of this. Now, do you know they came up with a suggestion that people could use their mocks rather than the grades if they're not happy with their grades. But the guidance upon doing that will not be published until the middle of next week. So again, their kids have got a week of going, oh, Jesus Christ, I've just lost my university place, blah, blah, blah. And then I might be able to do something about it next week, but I can't do anything about it now. What do you do?
But the system in England isn't like Scotland. Our prelims are set like an exam. Aye. And everybody sits the same prelim. Or I'm presuming that's still right. In my day, it was certainly that. It was literally an exam that gave you some idea of what the exam was going to be like, and some indication of the work that you needed to brush up on and do better and so on. But in England, apparently, they sit it at different times. They sit different exams. It has a different emphasis. Some are set by the school. Some are set by private exam boards.
It's a mess, mate. It's a complete mess down there. And you've got, as I say, you've got no idea how the appeal system's going to operate. There's still no waived the fee. So in England, if you want to appeal, the school has to do it for you, and you have to pay for the privilege of appealing a mark that you think is a nonsense. And again, the anecdotal stuff is awful. I mean, the visuals on this, as I say, on TV, and by 6 o'clock, you guaranteed the BBC and ITN will have made the decision to absolutely eviscerate Gavin Williamson. They didn't like him anyway. A lot of the political journalists see him as some kind of traitor.
He's a spy.
Aye. They really didn't like him, mate. I think they'll have made that decision, and the visuals by 6 o'clock, by the main headline bulletins, he's going to get destroyed on BBC and ITN. And it, perhaps, I mean, I'm pretty much certain you'll not see Boris. Boris will be, no, I'm on holiday, I'm off, let Gavin Williamson deal with this.
Well, do you really think he'll be forced to resign now?
No.
I don't think so. I
Mate,
think they can get away with anything now.
I think after the Cummings affair, mate, at the end of this, if anybody's going to lose their job, it'll be Boris that does it. He'll sack them. But I don't think anybody's going to be accountable, because I think the reason, or one of the reasonings behind the whole Cummings affair, and them standing firm on that, was to ensure that doesn't matter how bad you are at your job, accountability is not part of this government.
Do you know what I find quite strange about this whole thing? I don't want John Swinney to lose his job.
Mm.
And I'd be quite delighted to see Williamson lose his job. And at that point, you've got to say to yourself, Norrie, be aware of your bias.
Be aware of your bias, absolutely.
You know, because both basically cocked up.
They've both made this, but no, I didn't even see it as a cock-up, mate. What they've done is they've asked the exam board to produce a set of results that were comparable to the previous year's results and would be comparable to coming year's results, in that there's a slight curve. They all fit in together. And the SQA did exactly that. Hence the reason that the wee ginger bird that runs the SQA didn't apologise yesterday when she was sitting in front of the parliamentary committee. They did exactly what they were asked to do. Yeah. Whether that was the right thing to ask them, clearly now the SNP have decided, when they've looked at the results, you know what, this is actually no work, because down at an individual level, people are being punished because of the system we put in place. And I don't know, mate, I'm still of a mixed opinion as to whether...
Well, I have to admit, I was disappointed that Swinney didn't stand his ground until after the opportunity for the last bit of moderation, the individual appeals had gone through the process, because that was the part of it that would validate the concerns of parents and children. And I'm a bit disappointed he caved in before that actually came to pass.
I was kind of that opinion as well, mate. There's also the thing that these exam results are going to be diminished. If you're, I mean, Barry, you go to Edinburgh Uni and get yourself a degree and whatever. But when you come at university, if you're up for a job against somebody that sat higher last year or maybe next year, and your higher result is the same or even better than theirs, the employer might take a look at it and just think, aye, but you were for that dodgy year where you never sat the exam. Can you show me the certificate? Can you show me the first grade they gave you before they gave you what you wanted? You know, there's just going to be a credibility thing there, and it will stick with these people.
And that's the problem. And that's why on Twitter, I kept saying to people, would somebody please ask the employers how they're going to treat these results? Which nobody did. Nobody did. I noticed on Newsnight again last night that there was an ex-education secretary, English education secretary, headmaster, and a woman from UCAS. And it was quite an interesting round robin. We never saw that in Scotland.
No.
It was attack. I can't remember anybody from the university being asked about this on camera.
No, I don't think they were. I don't think they were, mate. The only people involved in education that I saw were people who have a vested interest in putting down the SNP, or a vested interest in...
The unions were asked, individual school kids were asked, people who disagreed with it were asked. I can't remember anybody who agreed with it being asked.
I'd be interested to see how John Swinney deals with this afternoon's attacks?
I'm
Because I
pretty
think,
sure it's a waste of time. I think the Greens will support them through it.
yeah, I think so. I was intrigued to see how the Greens would move, but when even Ross Greer, who was attacking all week, and he was attacking beforehand, but if they've made Ross Greer a happy man, to be honest, that actually annoys me. I hate to see him happy.
Anything to finish with, James?
I wanted to just point people in the direction of a piece. Only came out a couple of hours ago, and I'm not finished reading it yet, by Craig Murray.
Right.
It's a sort of, remember the Russia report back a few weeks ago, and we were having all kinds of chats about it. But it's a sort of, Craig Murray's taken his time. He's gone through it all with a fine tooth comb, and he's basically destroyed it. He's ripping it apart. But he points out gently that the expert witnesses that the parliamentary committee took to speak about Russia were all Russophobes, all right-wingers, all who actually, most of them make a living by producing articles slating Russia. And the way he put it, particularly for me, it reads beautifully. I'll just quote this one. There is simply no attempt at balance whatsoever. The best I can do to try to get over the extent of this would be to compare it to a hypothetical parliamentary inquiry into old firm rivalry, where the only witnesses were Scott Brown, Neil Lennon, John Hartson, the Green Brigade, and a cardinal of the Roman Catholic Church. So it's worth a look. I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of Russian interference in British elections and, frankly, Russian interference throughout Europe. But the reality I would gently point out to people is it's a bit rich for a country like the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland to complain about Russia interfering in other people's business when we've spent the entirety of our history doing exactly that.
But that's different. We did it for the greater good.
Aye, the greater good of the rich elite that
Did
run.
you not do history at school, Jimmy?
No, I didn't think I did history. I think I'd done history propaganda, mate.
Okay, we'll call it a day at that. Thanks for listening, folks. Thank you, Jimmy Hutton, for coming on. I'm Norrie Stewart. Stuart Lockhead, our other regular, hasn't appeared at all. I need to get in contact with him, make sure he's all right.
Mm-hmm.
I did have an interesting day today. I had a virtual physio appointment, Jimmy.
Virtual physio now, that's a new one on me.
Yeah, virtual physio. So I basically got to show her what I could do, but she didn't lay hands on me at all. So I was very disappointed. Man of my age, that's the only interaction I get with younger women. Physio. Still, not to worry.
Mm.
Oh, that's not true. My daughter buys me a drink occasionally.
Aye, she bought you bloody oysters the other day.
She did, aye. She did. Oysters at the shore, folks. You get your £10 discount. Absolutely excellent.
Charge on.
Okay. We'll see you all tomorrow, Friday. And
Oh,
hopefully Stuart will be back with us tomorrow. We'll need to wait and see. As I say, thanks for listening, folks. We'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye for now.